When discussing the death of the Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, we often think of it in a hypothetical sense. What would things have looked like if Qui-Gon Jinn had survived the battle with the Sith Lord on Naboo and had managed to train the young Anakin to mastery? Could Anakin, with this now present father figure, have truly represented what it meant to be the Jedi Chosen One? Fulfilling the prophecy in full, and never turning to the dark side of the Force, never reaching out for another father figure role which would eventually be filled by Palpatine, who in the end only desired to use the boy for his power and influence over the Force, and especially his influence over the Jedi and his ability to crush them at a moment's notice. The death of Qui-Gon Jinn, as stated by Dave Filoni, is in fact the duel of fates, as if Qui-Gon Jinn lives, Anakin Skywalker very likely would have fulfilled the path of the Chosen One and achieved ultimate balance in the Force. In a video that we've covered before, we discovered that Qui-Gon Jinn actually had an aspect that he deeply regretted about Anakin's training. That being that he thrusted upon his then Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi, only trusting Obi-Wan with the training of Anakin, not because he was the best suited for the training of the boy, but because he was the only one that would honor the dying master's wish. Anakin had been turned away by the Council and Qui-Gon Jinn just days earlier, and he knew that Obi-Wan would be the only one to fulfill this wish in his dying breath. The rest of the Jedi were too afraid of Anakin and his attachment to his mother, as well as the deep-seated fear that they could all sense in the back of the young boy's mind. It was this fear that would be the topic of much debate and discussion, with Obi-Wan ultimately honoring Qui-Gon Jinn's wish and training the boy to knighthood, unfortunately becoming more of a brotherly figure to Anakin than the father figure that he so desperately needed, with Anakin even pulling farther away after the death of his mother and the familial relationships completely severed, his lost surrogate father in Qui-Gon Jinn, and the death of his mother at the hand of the Tuskens. But thanks to a brand new canon book, there is an aspect of Qui-Gon Jinn's death and its impact on Anakin that is explored in full, as well as why the young Anakin Skywalker was terrified after Qui-Gon Jinn had died, why Qui-Gon Jinn meant more to Anakin than many of us had initially anticipated, as the book doesn't just explain that Qui-Gon Jinn represented a father figure to Anakin, but a salvation and a connection to his mother, as well as a much brighter future, and the massive impact that Qui-Gon Jinn's death had on the small boy. In the new Star Wars novel Skywalker, A Family at War, there is one statement from Qui-Gon Jinn that is stuck with Anakin, and one that actually brings him great fear, when at first it brought him hope that the future may be bright for the young slave boy. The line is, "Your focus determines your reality." In the book, we learn that Anakin Skywalker is dissuaded after being presented to the Jedi High Council. However, he feels a great sense of relief when Qui-Gon Jinn stands up for him and says that the boy has the potential to be a great Jedi. In the book, it's said that to Anakin, being a Jedi doesn't just represent power and adventure, but also freedom that he has craved for so long. A freedom that he wants to bring to his mother, and a freedom that he wants to bring to the rest of the innocents of the galaxy. Of course the young boy is afraid, and it's unfair for the Council to say that this is incorrect. To Qui-Gon, this is all natural. To Anakin, he senses that Qui-Gon has no fear in him at all, and more than this, a deep and a profound love for the young boy. Qui-Gon will be there, Anakin feels it, to guide his path and to care for him. But then we jump forward in the novel, after Anakin Skywalker has used the Naboo cruiser to attack the Trade Federation ships. This is what the book says. To Anakin, the experience of battle was more intense and exhilarating, more thrilling and terrifying than any pod race. Once back on the ground, Anakin's thrill of victory was immediately tempered by the crushing news of Qui-Gon Jinn's death. In a few short days, Anakin's life was completely altered and reimagined by the guidance and teachings of this mysterious Jedi. With his swift demise, all Anakin could think was, what will happen to me now? In the darkest corners of his mind, fear sent him spiraling into hypothetical scenarios where he was forced back into servitude, never to see his mother ever again. To Anakin, it is the loss of the only individual in the wide Jedi Order, and maybe even the galaxy that fully believed in him, And because of this, a deep sense of fear, what perhaps was small that the Jedi Council sensed in him, is now a seed that will continue to grow until the events of Revenge of the Sith and his eventual embrace of the dark side and the birth of Lord Vader. What makes this so important though, is this is the first watering of the seed that will eventually merge into Anakins Fall. The book says that Anakin's fears are realized, as it says that Obi-Wan is relentless in his training with Anakin and the regulations of the Jedi Code. Anakin says that if Qui-Gon had trained him, he believes that perhaps things would not have been so strict. Perhaps Anakin could have been trained in a different, more freeing way. The code itself are the shackles of slavery now to Anakin, and because of these shackles, one man arrives to free him from them. That man is Darth Sidious. The novel also says this: while Shmi Skywalker held the assurance of the comforts he knew, Qui-Gon had given him the promise of a meaningful future. The patient Jedi represented a bridge between Anakin's former enslaved self and the vast unknown, a future of infinite possibilities the boy was only beginning to grasp. The soon-to-be Jedi Padawan could feel the thrum of energy binding the galaxy together. Watching the Jedi Master's body turn to ash on a sacred funeral pyre, Anakin felt a profound sense of loss. In light of the prophecy, Anakin wondered if his very existence had somehow brought danger upon his new, kind friend. But with Obi-Wan's help, Anakin hoped to prove Qui-Gon Jinn's most earnest and heartfelt belief that he was truly the Jedi Chosen One. This gives us even further insight into the tragic thoughts of the young boy Anakin. Somehow, he holds himself responsible for the death of Qui-Gon Jinn. He believes that had he never been discovered, the Sith perhaps never would have arrived to challenge them. Perhaps it was because of Anakin that Qui-Gon Jinn was murdered, which in a roundabout way is ultimately true. But nonetheless, Anakin Skywalker shares no blame in the Jedi Master's fate. That blame rests squarely on the shoulders of Sidious and Maul, and yet Anakin still holds himself responsible. The same way over a decade later, Anakin would also hold himself responsible for the death of his mother. Although he had the power to save her, he was too late, and he feels the same for Qui-Gon Jinn. Anakin is filled with fear. His greatest advocate, the only one that believed in him, is now dead, and he believes it's his fault. Now left to Obi-Wan Kenobi as a last resort, the Council has shunned Anakin on the moment of his arrival, and he believes he has turned in one set of chains for another. This all makes Anakin Skywalker's turn to the dark side much more understandable, and the reality that in the end, as George Lucas so brilliantly put it, that Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, the individual who we all thought was the villain, is actually the victim. A victim of circumstance, a victim of the Sith, and a victim of the dark side. And the duel of fates is cemented. Had Qui-Gon Jinn survived Naboo, the seed of fear would have ultimately died out inside of Anakin. It would have not been allowed to grow, as there was someone in the wide Jedi and the galaxy itself that accepted him, believed in him fully. He was not someone that was sprung upon a young Jedi Padawan for training, but rather, a wise and a powerful Jedi believed in him, and believed that he was the chosen one. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this brand new novel? What are your thoughts on the young Anakin Skywalker's thoughts as Qui-Gon Jinn was murdered by Maul and at the funeral of Qui-Gon? Thank you as always so much for visiting and supporting the channel today, my friends, and may the Force be with you.